Okay, so this is another test to see what my face looks like and what I sound like on video. I'm already kind of ready, I'll be honest with you. Okay, here we go. And hey everybody! As you can tell, I am not doing a written blog. I have decided to go in the direction of one of my favorite people in the, internet universe by the name of Mr. John Green, and he runs a channel called Vlog Brothers. So I decided to make my own vlog, which is an amalgamation of the words video and blog. You put them together and you get a vlog. So this will be hopefully a relatively entertaining counterpart to my normal written essays, small novels, however you want to call my blog posts. Mostly because this is potentially my last official blog post of my study abroad experience, which is crazy. As you can tell from my lovely state flag I have back here, I am back in the U.S. I'm actually back at school in St. Louis. And I think by the time I post this, I will have been home for about a month, which is just insane to think about. And it's been so wonderful just to see everybody and see familiar faces all over the place and kind of get back into a normal routine. But obviously, it's just, there's a bit of a shock. It's a bit of, there was culture shock going in, and now it's kind of culture shock coming back, which was really unexpected. But it's still, I can't imagine not having done this experience. It's something that I needed to make happen, I think, for my own personal growth. And I think it's really interesting because you can kind of tell what people have gone on study abroad experiences and what people haven't by the questions that they ask. So the one way I can tell that you have never gone on study abroad is if you say, "So what was your favorite part about study abroad?" Because I literally cannot tell you. There's no single one thing that I'm just like, you know what? Study abroad, favorite part, bar none. That's all. That's all there is. Wrap it up, guys. We're good to go. That just doesn't exist. To say that there's one moment, there's one thing that's just like the pinnacle of everything that you've done for a whole 4 months. I try to describe my experience to people, and I don't have the English vocabulary to express it to people. I use like all these big words, like life changing, paradigm shifting, mind expanding, and none of them really capture the feeling that this semester has had for me. And I've been thinking a lot about how to describe it to people. And I think probably the best way for me to at least describe it is what at least my knowledge of the Big Bang. So at the beginning, way back before there was anything, there was just basically this ball. And there was a moment, and it just exploded. And the universe created and spread out infinitely in all different directions. And I feel like that's what my mind has done. Pre-Spain, Lauren was just this little ball. And then after study abroad, it's just expanded infinitely in every direction. And there's just so much to absorb and to take in, and so many experiences that I can't bring that down to one conversation, to one question, to one word. I just can't do it physically. And I think there's a level at which you can't really understand it unless you go for it. You have to kind of put yourself out there and really make sure you want to go out and learn something from the world, which is terrifying and exciting and uplifting and empowering. And it's just so many things that you can't, you think that you can't possibly have all of them and have it all work out, but it does. And it's just so magical of an experience. And so I think one of the best things that I have experienced from every place that I visited over the last semester was probably from the people, and um, just from walking around and seeing how people interact with other people, with the city that they were in, with the environment, and just to kind of learn from that. So I kind of came up with different things that I learned from each country that I visited. So I guess I'm gonna go ahead and start with Morocco, which is my favorite. It was my favorite trip, which I know is a really big statement because I had so many incredible trips. But I just think this one was the pinnacle of what I really experienced and what I really wanted from study abroad in a social justice perspective. And I think what I learned most from Morocco that I want to bring back was this overwhelming feeling of true generosity. And what I mean by that is there's a feeling in Morocco that everyone is just one big family. Everyone is friends with everyone. You go out of your way to make sure that everyone in your community is cared for and has an opportunity to have food and to get a job. And you kind of help each other out all the time. And I think that's something that we all strive for. We all attempt to do that. And yet it doesn't always come through all the way. It doesn't quite manifest itself the way that it does there. And that was something I was very, very struck by. I'm still just in awe of how generous they are to each other. And I think if we move on to Paris, France, the thing I think I learned from Paris is that you have to make your own opinions about people, about places, about everything, and you have to form them for yourself. I mentioned this in my blog post about Paris that I was really concerned that I wouldn't like it because everyone said that Paris was overrated, and that is horribly false, at least for me. I loved Paris. It was gorgeous. The history of it, everything was just so amazing. And I thought to myself, why did I let somebody else's opinion of this place influence me personally? Because that's just ridiculous, you know? Like it's such a gorgeous place to visit. That I can't let what somebody else say influence what I want to do. And in almost the same vein with the historical significance of the place, Rome for me, it just makes me want to put a mark somehow on history. There are things in Rome that have been there for thousands of years. Thousands of years. And for me, I don't need to do something that lasts for thousands of years, but something that I think makes a mark. That someone might say, yeah, I remember Lauren because she did that. And I think that feeling is very overwhelming in a place like Rome, where you literally are walking on history. You're touching history everywhere that you go. And I think much of Europe is just like that, where it's just history everywhere, and you feel the need to make your mark somehow. When you look at the works of Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci and all these incredible artists who made masterpieces, and you say, I want to do that too. You know, like that's such a great feeling to have. Just to bring happiness to people in that way. And I think that kind of goes along with what I learned in Dublin, Ireland. I went around Christmas time, and my roommate went with me, and I think she really put it in a really beautiful way, the attitude of the Irish people. And it's kind of, people, especially in the United States, get really cheerful and really anticipatory around Christmas time. people in Dublin are that cheerful all the time. I think that's something I really want to try to bring is to be Christmas cheerful always. 365 days of the year. And I don't think that necessarily means like I have to be, bouncy and exuberant and joyful all the time. I mean, obviously there will be days where I really do feel like that, but that's not possible every day of the week. And I think as long as you are making an effort to be actively joyful, that's what really matters. And that's something that I really think I'm going to strive for myself. At least, hopefully forever, but at least, in these next few months where I'm really adjusting back into, true American life. And then London, I think, was one of the places where I just felt the magic of being in a different place. I think the magic kind of comes from the Harry Potter. I'm not going to lie to you. That was life-changing in a literary and childlike way for me. But also just to see Big Ben, just to see these double-decker buses, just to see these cultural icons that we're so familiar with within our own pop culture, and see them in real life and say, I have made it to this place, and I have experienced these things in real life. It's just overwhelming. And finally, I think, from Spain, I had traveled all over Spain, to the north, to the east, to the south, to the center, and I think what I learned most from Spain is that you don't always have to have a destination. That sometimes your best adventures come from wandering, come from asking somebody else what they think you should do, what they would recommend, and just kind of trusting in that wholeheartedly and going into it almost not quite blindly, but just with full trust and really kind of launching yourself into whatever adventure may come, which is again frightening, but also very empowering. There are times where I was lost, miserably lost, so lost, and yet I had so much fun because I was getting to see places that I had never seen before, that I had never been able to experience, places that I would never have found normally if I hadn't been hopelessly, hopelessly lost in downtown Madrid. And I think that's an incredible attitude to have, one that's difficult to carry out. We can't always just kind of say, you know what, I'm just going to wander. I'm just going to take a time to just meander and kind of take a break from everything and just go out and get lost for a while. And so I think you have to figure out a way to do that in your own manner, your own way. Which is the same with study abroad. Obviously, study abroad isn't an experience that everyone can accomplish. I consider myself to be extremely, overwhelmingly, incredibly lucky to have had this Big Bang experience. And for that reason, I think you have to find a way to make your own adventure. Study abroad was my adventure, but it's not done yet. I think there's more than one way to have an adventure, You go to a museum down the street that you've wanted to visit forever. You go try a new food, even if you don't think you're going to like it. You go on a random, spur of the moment trip to, Chicago, or you go to, I don't know, like DC, or you really do. You go to Africa, you go to Asia, you go to South America, you find the adventure that you and your soul needs, And people are always like, oh, well, what are you going to do now? And I was like, what do you mean, what am I going to do now? There's so much left. I barely scratched the surface of what you can do. I went into the study abroad experience with a list of what I wanted to accomplish, And I came out of it with a longer list. I want to see everything. I want to meet everyone. I want to eat all the food. I want to be able to live the most fulfilling life and the most earthly life, the where I can say that I experienced everything that I could. And I think that is probably the best thing that could have come out of this experience for me, was to say that I want to go back. I want to do more. I want to see more. And for me, I don't think I would have wanted it any other way. I think if I had gone to study abroad and just kind of come back and been like, yep, accomplished everything, I'm done, no need to, go back ever again, I just don't think that's the right attitude to have. Just because I saw such a small portion of the world, if you think about it. Yes, I went to 6 different countries, and they were all beautiful and incredible places. But there's almost 200 countries in the world. And even within those countries that I did visit, I only visited a few cities. And I think there's just so much more that the world has to offer. And so I'm sitting here in my room in St. Louis, getting ready to do my homework and procrastinating, but I made some big changes over this semester. Like, I traveled all over the place. I mean, like, I changed my major. I told a guy that I liked him, and he said, he actually didn't respond to me, and I was kind of bummed about that. But I did it anyway. I kind of I decided that I was going to make decisions that were going to make me happy and to make me live an adventurous life, and that is my priority from now on. And I think that is an attitude I should have had always, but it's great to know that it has been reinforced and really blossomed over this semester. And there's just a feeling of overwhelming excitement about the future. And I think that's something that we should all strive for, And I think I've kind of rambled a little bit. This has been an interesting experience for me. I'm looking at a little blue dot and trying to imagine all of you listening to this. So I will end with an immortal quote from the movie Up. And it is, "Adventure is out there. You need to go and find it.